I'm excited about Mother's Day because my wife is going to preach this morning, and I get to take a break, so that's really a blessing for me. Would you welcome my wife, Tanya Baker? She comes to the front and gives the message this morning. Love you. Love. Make sure your thing's on. Yeah, I got it. All right.
This is weird up here. I'm still getting used to the stage being this high up, and it's weird. Now you all moved, like, I don't know. It's a different view. I found this poem, and I was going to read it, and then I thought, no, and then Melanie said, do it, so I'm going to start with that. To those who have given birth to their first child today, we celebrate with you. To those who have lost a child this year, we mourn with you. To those who are in the trenches with little ones every day and wear the badge of food stains, we appreciate you. To those who experience loss through miscarriage, failed adoptions, or a child who ran away, we mourn with you. To those who walk the hard path of infertility fraught with pokes and prods, tears and disappointment, we walk with you. To those who are foster moms, mentor moms, and spiritual moms, we need you. To those who have warm and close relationships with their children, we celebrate with you. To those who have disappointment, heartache, and distance with your children, we sit with you. To those who lost their mothers this year, we grieve with you. To those who experienced abuse at the hands of your mother, we acknowledge your experience. To those who have lived through driving tests, I'm getting ready to do that, medical tests, and the overall testing of motherhood, we are better for having you in our midst. To those who are single and love and long to be married and mothering your own children, we mourn that life has not turned out that way, the way you longed it to be yet. To those who are stepmoms, we walk with you on these complex paths. To those who envision lavishing and loving your grandchildren, yet that dream is not yet to be, we grieve with you. To those who will have an emptier nest this coming year, we grieve and rejoice with you. To those who placed children up for adoption, we commend you for your selflessness and remember how you hold your child in your heart. To those who are expecting new life, both expected and surprising, we anticipate with you. This Mother's Day, we walk with you. Mothering is not for the faint of heart. We have real warriors in our midst, and we remember you. I just thought that was really nice. It kind of incorporated everyone because it's not just moms. There's so many different variations. We all get here on different journeys, you know, whether you're a grandma, stepmom, mom, foster mom, spiritual mom, aunt. It doesn't matter. We all somehow get to this point together. But I wanted to start out with just a few things to lighten up the mood. I thought I'd share with you some pictures from past Mother's Day creations that I've received, and some that I took one of Mia's that she received this year and decided to post it also up here. The first one, Aubrey, before you post it, let's see which one is it. This was a couple of years ago in the life groups here. They made chocolate-covered strawberries. And they put them in a box, and Aubrey gave one to me, and go ahead and show it, Aubrey. It included my birth date and my death date on it. That's not even, I don't even know when I was born, I'm not sure. The second one, hold on a second, Aubrey, is Mia showed this to me. She received it this week at school. Darren made it for her. She showed it to me, and I said, I have got to use this. This looks like you have antlers. Go ahead and show it. That's Mia.
You have a pacifier in your mouth, Mia.
I like her antlers, personally, coming out of her head. I felt bad. I wasn't going to show this one, but I felt bad because I put Mia up there. So I thought I'd go back to the day when Everly, we were living in Minnesota, she made a cup out of clay that was supposed to be me. And when I posted it on Facebook years ago, everybody thought it was Chris. So go ahead and show that one, Aubrey.
Spitting image.
They thought it was you, not me. This past week, I had a long talk. It's been a rough week parenting. I had a long talk with Matthias one night about attitude. And the very next day, I get a card given to him. And he didn't just write it to me. It was written to Mom and Dad for Mother's Day. But this is what the inside said. After we talked about attitude being an issue and he needed to change it, go ahead and show up. I will never, ever change for you. If that's not rebellion, I don't know. And then lastly, the all-time favorite gift ever received was in 3rd grade when Aubrey was asked to make a picture of what her and I enjoy doing, and she created this nice card of me and her watching people go to hell from heaven. If you notice, we're up there at heaven, we're having a party, Ollie is licking something, and the people are perishing, saying they're the bad guys, they're saying, "Aw," and I wish I was partying. Here's a picture I drew of me and you doing something special together. Yes. We need to get some hobbies in our family, apparently. So I share that with you so that you know whatever happens to you, that nothing is perfect in our house. Do not feel bad. We are not perfect by any means. I was so embarrassed after that because, the teachers in here, I never know what people think when my kids write things like that. I think, what in the world are they thinking of us? But, so with 4 kids, we have a lot of adventures, and you'd think that maybe we would know something up here, but I'm probably the least qualified person to be up here speaking this morning, or I feel that way anyway. We have had a lot of experiences, but that doesn't mean we know anything. We are learning very much as we go along. But one thing I have discovered is that there are different seasons and different moments, whether you're a spiritual mom, a grandma, it doesn't matter. There are just different seasons in life. And, there's the times like when my children turned our dryer into a rock tumbler. Last week when Chris goes downstairs to our basement and there's coffee dripping from the ceiling because Micah apparently poured coffee down the vent and it was coming through the floor. There's a lot, I could go on and on with that, but I'm not. There are all kinds of things that can happen. There are hard seasons when you watch your kids lose friends, when they're bullied, when they fail and you have to step back and let them fail. That's a hard season. When I've been through the NICU, I've been through more surgeries of children than I can count. Autism diagnoses, Tourette's, struggles. I've walked into schools and had people say, "Oh, with one kid, we wish every kid in here acted like this kid." And I've been called from people in another school because of behavior another kid's doing. I've seen it all, and I've learned one thing. You don't ever judge, and nothing ever looks, because you never know what your kid will do. You can parent every kid the same, and they're all going to do whatever they want anyway, pretty much. I've had, a couple years ago, I told you about Matthias rubbing caterpillars on his eyelids, the poisonous ones at recess, and the school called because he had welts all over his face. Because why not? And, I thought we were past that stage because he was getting older. No, this year I get a call. We're at a new school. I'm like, we're at a fresh start. But I've already become on a first name basis with the nurse. And she calls to tell me that at the Valentine party, my child ate an eraser that was shaped like fruit because he thought it was a gummy, ate the whole thing and swallowed it because he has manners, of course. It didn't want to hurt the kid's feelings that it didn't taste it bad. And she didn't know where it was made from, so she thought we should be concerned. So you just never know. You just have to laugh. I just laugh when she calls me now, even if it's something serious, because I'm embarrassed and I don't know what to say. But there are times when, you can't fix the hurt, and all you can do is pray. And that you see your kids going through something, and no matter what you do, you can't fix it, but you can go to the one who can. And then there are seasons. There are sweet seasons where, when they're little and they're giving you weeds that are flowers, those are the best. And when they can't wait for you to come to their bed at night so that they can tell you, you can read a story and they can snuggle. and they like you, at that age. They, my boys are always wanting to marry me at that age. Those are the nice ones. It changes in a couple of years. If you're not there yet, it will change. Those are the sweet seasons, and they're the empty seasons when you have just given everything. You feel so overlooked. You feel like nobody even sees what you do. You are just serving nonstop. You are just getting the next snack, doing the next load of laundry, and you're just seen as the person who just gives, and you don't feel like anybody, not just in your family, but anybody on the outside, even God sometimes doesn't see you. And we're going to talk about that a little bit today. Because it doesn't matter what season you're in, they all have their challenges, even the good ones. They're all exhausting. Even when you're older and your kids are adults and you're worried about them. Because I'm starting to think about that now as we're getting kids that are becoming more independent and they're going to be driving soon and stuff. I'm like, I thought that would be good, but now I'm like, that seems like it's scarier. Yeah, I see moms shaking their head. I feel like I'm going to be in more prayer now than ever. Because I won't get that say. I won't be able to have any control over it. I can just trust what I put into their lives is enough and hope for the best. So regardless of what season you're in, that we have to remember that God never designed us to be alone. From the very beginning of time, he created us for relationship with him, but also relationship with other people. And I never really realized that because I'm more of a person that I just like to do things myself, like to keep to myself, when it's personal things and stuff. But I didn't realize how much I needed like a tribe of people to help me out until probably about almost 2 years ago, when our daughter Jubilee passed away. And this church just stepped up. Everybody was giving meals to us. They mourned with us. On the hardest day of our life, someone in here climbed in my bed. Even, just everybody was just with us. And I realized then the importance of letting people into your life, letting people pray for you, letting people encourage you to keep going, how important that is. And so the Bible says that we're supposed to do life together. In Acts 2:42 through 47, it says, they devoted themselves to the apostles' teaching and to fellowship, to the breaking of bread and to prayer. Everyone was filled with awe at the many wonders and signs performed by the apostles. All the believers were together and had everything in common. They sold property and possessions to give it to anyone who had a need. Every day they continued to meet together in the temple courts. They broke bread in their homes and ate together with glad and sincere hearts, praising God and enjoying the favor of all the people. And the Lord added to their number daily those who were being saved. We are an Acts church. We are a New Testament church. And so it makes sense for us to need that companionship and that fellowship, and to support each other, because that is actually going to impact generations. And I'll share with you how that's going to do that in a second. We can't do everything on our own. We might think we're super mom, but we can't. And I'm learning that more and more and more, that I have to rely on other people. I need other people in my life. My kids don't bring notes home ever from school. Well, one kid does not bring a note home ever from school. And when he was at West, I had Michelle to help me out, Mariah was in his class, and she'd always tell me that, what was going on. Now I have Melanie, now that he switched schools, telling me, hey, there's something on Friday night. I asked him. I didn't want to do it, so I didn't give you the note, We need each other. And, like 2 weeks ago, sorry, Chris and I are talking about this now. Like 2 weeks ago, I had 4 kids that needed to be in 5 places within 2 hours of each other. And I can't tell you how many moms, when I had just kind of shared that, started saying, hey, I'll run to your house and get this one. Or, after play practice, how many times Mia would bring this one home while I was off getting this one, and Chris was at a meeting, or all of this stuff. What a blessing that is, because I don't have family close by. And you don't realize that's one of the best gifts you could have given. It says, or when we think about people that are in our tribe, it doesn't just have to be people our age. A lot of times that happens naturally because we're at the ball field together. We're at the school event together. But I'm going to share this from Linda. Linda and I, our children are not the same age, but she can give me things or speak things because she's been there. And you know what? That's valuable to me. She gave this to me a while ago for my house. This says, raising kids is like being pecked to death by a chicken. See? We need that encouragement in our life. that hope. I hang it up in it sits right in my kitchen to remind myself, Or like, Barb and I will text, and our children are not the same age. She's like one step ahead, like where I'm heading. I can see where I'm going. She has this new freedom. But she encourages me. We share some of the same struggles, So don't think that you just have to have people right in your age group, because you're really limited in yourself. That's not how the body of God was ever supposed to be. We shouldn't all be arms. We should have all parts of the body working together, and that's biblical to have older generations, experienced generations speaking down into the younger generations. We need that. So when you're praying and asking God to bring people in your life, don't limit yourself to just a couple people. And also when we're coming together in unity, which is the will of God, we must remember that Satan would love nothing more than to destroy that. So we're going to look at 4 different moms today and 2 relationships between them, and we're going to talk about the tactics that Satan uses and also what the best way to handle things and the not so best way to handle things. All right. So Proverbs 27:9 says, "A sweet friendship refreshes the soul." I like that, We're giving away cupcakes today, and I was like, oh, that even goes with that when God gave that to me. But, sorry. So when you think about it, we need that. We need that refreshment. We don't think we do because we're so independent and we're so, I'm more introverted by nature. I force myself not to be, but if I could just be how I am, I would just be in my house by myself. And the kids would be somewhere. No, I'm teasing. But I would just stay to myself. But I force myself to not be because I want to see more things done for the kingdom. But the first couple we're going to look at of friends it's so funny. Christine brought up Mary today because it's Mary and Elizabeth. And God actually pointed this out to me back at Christmas when I was really reading through the story and really picking things out. Aubrey, you can show that next slide. So in Luke chapter 1, verse 39 through 45, it says, "At that time Mary got ready and hurried to a town in the hill country of Judea, where she entered Zechariah's home and greeted Elizabeth. When Elizabeth heard Mary's greetings, the baby leaped in her womb, and Elizabeth was filled with the Holy Spirit. In a loud voice she exclaimed, 'Blessed are you among women, and blessed is the child you will bear. But why am I so favored that the mother of the Lord should come to me? As soon as the sound of your greeting reached my ears, the baby in the womb leaped for joy. Blessed is she who has believed that the Lord would fulfill his promise in her.'" See, Christine kind of covered, actually, without knowing it, the beginning of that story. And so many times we focus on the part of Mary. We don't think about Elizabeth and how long. Elizabeth was older in age, and we don't think she had prayed for a long time for this baby. She had done everything right. Zechariah had done everything right. And all of a sudden, God answers their prayers, and they're so excited. And next thing you know, Mary comes in and kind of one-ups her. We would think in our world today, she kind of like steals the show and, oh, you're getting a baby, but I'm getting God, You can't compare to that. So most of us in that kind of situation, and we've all been there, would have started feeling, what? Great. Now, I've waited for this for so long. I've waited for God to answer my prayer, and I don't even get to celebrate it because somebody else is coming along and kind of stealing my show or whatever. But what we see is completely different in Elizabeth. Both Mary and Elizabeth were exceptionally God-fearing and had found favor with God, and both were chosen for a special purpose. As soon as Mary found out, she packed up her bags and she went to Elizabeth. See, they didn't have texting or Facebooking back then, so they had to pack everything up and run to go tell the news. Not just to share her news, but because also, don't forget, the angel had told her about Elizabeth. And you have to believe, knowing the character of these women, she was probably extremely excited because she had probably prayed for a very long time for her cousin to have a child. So I'm sure she was excited, not just to share her news, but to share the joy of her friend or cousin's news. A good friend will always celebrate your answered prayers and victories with you. That's the point of Mary and Elizabeth. If Elizabeth's heart had any envy, she would have been upset by Mary's announcement. Not only was Mary given a baby before she's married, she gets to be the mother of God. Now most of us, even if for a moment, would have had a reaction, even if it was only in our heads, of maybe a little bit of bitterness and envy, thoughts of why now, why not me? But Elizabeth's, her reaction is enthusiastic. She rejoices so much that her baby even leaps with joy in her womb. Her excitement led to her being filled with the Holy Spirit. We overlook that, I think, so many times. Her excitement, what she felt on the inside, not just what she acted on the outside, but what she truly felt, led to her being filled with the Holy Spirit. How awesome is that, you know? God blessed her attitude. And when we get the right attitude by being fully devoted to Him and what He has given us, you know, their relationship with God led them to carry the birth of sons that would change the world and eternity. Their relationship with each other continued on to the next generation when we see in Luke 3:16, when John says, I indeed baptize you with water, but one mightier than I is coming, whose sandal strap I am not worthy to loose. He will baptize you in the Holy Spirit with fire. John had an envy-free heart, just like his mother Elizabeth. Elizabeth chose humility and gave her cousin the honor that was due. She could have smeared her name. She could have discouraged her. She could have made her doubt that she'd heard from God. But because she didn't, generations, including ours, are still being impacted today. We're still being impacted because of how they encouraged each other and how they didn't cut each other down or say, you know, do you think Joseph's going to take off? You know, they didn't put any seeds of doubt. They encouraged each other to keep going. These two women could have glanced at each other, at each other's callings, because they both had high callings on them, and they could have started comparing them. They could have listened to the voice of jealousy or envy, but instead they chose God. They chose to love, and because of that, they gave each other encouragement instead of questioning whose call was a better one. Remember, the disciples did that. Who's the greater amongst us, you know? It's not that we can't do that. I mean, when you do that, you're the only one. That nobody's ever had jealousy or anything before, because it's our flesh. It's going to happen. But their example was amazing. Can you imagine if we treated each other this way today? If we were so dedicated to our relationship with God first and so full of His Spirit that there was no room for a spirit of jealousy or comparison between us and each other? Can you imagine what that would look like if we were all just truly wanting the best in everybody's lives? I can't imagine that, you know? If we could stop competing and start cheering each other on, what a difference that would make. What a difference it would look like to the outside world, how we would look. Now, the second group of people I want to talk about are Rachel and Leah. And, you know, it's kind of funny hearing these stories and stuff when I became a Christian and everything. I always thought, like, Rachel was, like, here and Leah was, like, here. In my head, I'm not saying it was taught to me that way. It just seemed how I perceived it. Like Rachel was the one that didn't get the child. Rachel was the one that had to wait. But when you really start reading this story, you kind of really see a whole other view on this, and I'm going to talk to you about that. You know, as you know in this story, Jacob was a master manipulator. He was a deceiver, and God changed his life. But through all of that, as he's deceiving and everything, he gets deceived, and he wants Rachel, ends up with Leah, then works 7 more years to get Rachel. And can you imagine Leah? I've always thought about that, how it must have felt. I don't know if she knew ahead of time, like if that was Laban's plan was to use her or not, if she even had a choice, if she had a voice in it at all. But can you imagine how that must have felt the minute you get married and your husband's like, oh, this was a mistake. This wasn't supposed to be you. You know, we read through these stories and forget that these people had feelings, that they were real, they were just like us. And so she's going through that. Jacob works for another 7 years and gets Rachel. And so you have Leah in a marriage where she is not loved. And it says several times in the Bible she is unloved. You know, what a great thing if you're going to be in the Bible to have written about you. How heartbreaking that must have been. But how many times do we feel that way? And you have Rachel, who is loved much. You know, it's not hidden. Everybody knows. Their servants, I'm sure, talk about it and discuss it amongst each other. You know, they weren't just 2 people. It wasn't like that show, Sister Wives, where there's just a couple of people. You know, they had like a whole entourage working for them. They all knew that she wasn't chosen. But, you know, she feels unseen and she feels lonely, but God sees her. And in Genesis 29:31, he says, when the Lord saw that Leah was unloved, he opened her womb, but Rachel was barren. She may have been overlooked by people, but the King of Kings saw her, and he blessed her in front of her enemies. You know, he gave her children, and after that she bears 4 sons. And if you read, I'm not going to go through it right now, but each of their names are all pointing back to God. You know, thank you. You've done this for me. You saw me at my worst, and you've blessed me. Rachel's jealous. Here's Rachel, who has all of Jacob's attention, all of his affection, but she's jealous because Leah has something she doesn't have. And she can't see the gift that's been given to her in the love of Jacob because she only can see what she doesn't have. And so many times, we do the same thing, and that's what prevents us from being there for each other. All we can see is what we don't have. You know, and these people have, oh, they have a great marriage, and mine's falling apart. So I don't see what I do have. I don't see the hope I have. I just see what I don't have. You know, we start comparing, and we start getting upset. And then that breaks apart all the encouragement that could change a whole future generation because we start comparing. And that's exactly what Rachel did. She even says to Jacob, give me children or else I'll die. To which Jacob said, it's not my fault. You know, I love that. Just so both sisters then, you know, after the 4 children were born to Leah, give their servants to Jacob for more children. And they're competing. And Rachel receives a son through her servant. And one of her sons, she names him this, she says, I have wrestled with my sister and I have prevailed, right after he's born. So she is still, you know, it's not even about the children, it's about that competition where Leah is naming her kids, you know, happy, good fortune. You know, it's a whole complete different mindset. Then later on we see Leah's son Reuben is carrying in the mandrakes from the field, and so Rachel asks Leah for the mandrakes. Leah says, is it a small matter that you have taken away my husband? Now you take my son's mandrakes too, and and Rachel offers her husband to lay with Leah for the night. Don't forget, it was actually her husband first. It's so messed up when you read these stories. If she can have the mandrakes. And Rachel, the second wife, says she can have her own husband for the price of the mandrakes, which were known to help with conception. Leah agrees, and she goes to Jacob in the field and says, you must come to me because I have hired you. That's her husband. How messed up is that? She has to purchase her own husband from the second wife just to be with him. It's so sad, you know? And so she becomes pregnant again, and she names her son Issachar, which means wages. And then she goes on to have another son and daughter. And then after all that time, God remembered Rachel, and she had a son named Joseph, saying, may the Lord add to me another. She still wasn't happy. She still wanted more. It still wasn't enough. Not finally, I'm rejoicing, God has answered my prayers. I'd like another. You know, it kind of reminds me of children when you give them something and it's not enough and they just want more. But so I said this story to say this. Rachel was so busy wanting what other people had, she missed the blessing of what she did have. And we can't live like that. We can't always be looking at our sisters in our church or in our community, our friends, and always wanting what they have, not realizing what we have. We can be so busy coveting your sister's answered prayers and blessings that we miss our own. And we need to stop looking at all the stuff on Facebook, you know. We talk about it all the time, and yet we all still kind of do it. You know, the kids in this pose, we make sure, you know, you scoot off the laundry. I don't even do that anymore. I don't even care. But, you know, we try to make it look perfect and put this image. And then we know that we do it, and then we covet other people, the image other people put forth. You know, and what they have, or their sons, you know, off here, you know, their grandchildren, they're all serving the Lord, and my son's addicted to drugs. And we see that, and it's hard. And it's so easy for that envy and jealousy to creep in. You know, but we have to stop looking at other people and start looking at our own kids, our own marriages, and thanking God for them and enjoying them. And it's then, when we're filled with God, then we can be a good encouragement to other people. We can change generations because we're not so busy being jealous about somebody. We're actually happy for them. You know, I understand it's horrible when you are praying for something, and it seems like this happens all the time, and I've talked to so many people and prayed with people over it. You're praying for something really hard, and then somebody else gets that answered prayer, and they weren't even praying for it. You know, I remember I can't remember what book it is, but Lisa Bevere's book, one of them, she shares a story about how she had prayed for a minivan really bad. They needed a minivan. Their car wasn't running well. They had 3 kids. They were trying to shove in a car. You know, if you've ever done that, we've done that. That's yeah. So she's praying for this minivan, and good friends of theirs in their Bible study get the minivan. And she's so mad. They didn't need it. They didn't have many kids. They didn't ask for it. And somebody in their church just said, here, it's a minivan. And she's like, God, you messed up. You got the wrong people. That was supposed to come to us. Something got missed in the communication. And I love what she says. God spoke to her and said, Lisa, do you think I only have one minivan? You know, he was trying to teach her a lesson through that to rely on her, not to keep her focused on everybody else. And later on, he provided her a way to earn the money to get that minivan. But it wasn't the way she thought it was going to happen. But she learned such a great lesson in it because her eyes were so focused on what somebody else got. She got angry at God, separated herself from God, and almost missed what he had planned for her, that minivan down the road. I think, if I remember right, she even said like it was the exact color she wanted. I mean, it was everything right in her face. And that happens so many times. I mean, am I the only one that's ever experienced that? You pray for something, and then like you watch somebody else get it right away. And it's frustrating. But we can't let envy creep in and destroy you from having a godly mom, you know, tribe or whatever. You know, Jessica had said it the other day, and I was like, you know, that's exactly what I was thinking of. That was such confirmation. Because envy and comparison are thieves, and they will destroy that. You can't do it alone. This world's getting harder. It's getting darker. You know, I shared with you like a month or so ago, you know, a harder message to share, which this was a nicer message, which is awkward for me. I was telling Phil outside, I'm like, I don't usually speak nice, encouraging messages, so this is weird for me to be nice. But, you know, we can't let, I totally lost myself by saying I wasn't nice. But we can't let those things stop us from having the best thing. We need people to encourage us because it's easy to want to give up. It's easy to say, you know what, I can't do anything with this kid. Whether they're this big or this big, you know, I give up. It doesn't matter what I say to them. They don't listen. It doesn't matter what I do. They don't listen. You know, I feel like that's going to be every age. I just told Barb this morning, and we were laughing. I'm like, is this what I have to look forward to in a little bit? Because Bella was home, and she's like, they're all back. You know, sorry, I wrote in highlighter on this, and I can't read what it says, so give me 1 second. So we have to be on guard to not let that creep in, and this is how it looks. You know, you have a friend who has the perfectly clean house, and you have a mountain of laundry that you're sitting next to. Their child made honor roll again. You just got to note that your child hasn't turned in homework for 3 weeks. Their son's going into ministry. Yours is dabbling in drugs. They're complaining of another surprise baby, and you just threw away another negative pregnancy test. She's getting married. You're still praying. You know, she makes all these Pinterest-worthy snacks. Your kids are eating off the floor in the car, you know. Pop-Tarts, right? In the camper. We don't even know how old they were. Hey, they survived. They're good. You know, they just got their dream house. Your rent is 2 months past due. They're posting pictures of a great date night, and you're asking God if there's a way out of your marriage. And it's so easy when we're in hard times to look at somebody else and think, I want that. And you, instead of looking at what God and what his promises are for you and what he's got in store for you down that road. So we can't let envy creep in. We need to rejoice for each other as moms, because sometimes your blessings may be what someone else is praying for also. You may get a blessing that's unexpected that you didn't ask for and not realize that somebody else was praying for that and going through the same thing. And that's why we need grace for each other. That's why we need to continue to encourage each other. You know, there's times when you're not going to feel empty and you're so full of excitement and fire for the Lord, but your friend's going to be feeling completely empty, and they're going to need you. They're going to need that kindling to pull them through. You know, we're going to need each other, like I said, It doesn't matter our age. It doesn't matter if you're single and have no kids. I have a lot of friends that don't have children and are single, and they're still part of my mom tribe because I still need them, just to encourage me, to help me out, to love on my kids. So we can impact the world by helping and encouraging each other, just like Mary and Elizabeth did. It changed everything. If you read on about Rachel and Leah, their kids were fighting back and forth. Look, they threw Joseph in the well because of jealousy. The jealousy continued. The generational curse kept continuing on down in their family. But not, we're here today because of Mary and Elizabeth's blessings that flowed down. So we can impact the world because we need people in our God tribe, our mom tribe, who are going to point us back to God, who are going to bring us joy. Everybody needs a friend that can make you laugh. We have a lot of personality in this church. Rick Myers always says we don't lack that. We're not boring at all. We need friends that are going to encourage us, that will show grace and mercy to us on our worst days, that will love us at our worst and celebrate us at our best, that will truly be happy, that can see past themselves, that we can see past ourselves to be there for people, that will speak truth to us even when it hurts. That's the best kind of friend you can have, is the friend that will tell you you're going the wrong way, you're doing something wrong. That will make you laugh, and they will also cry beside you. You can have grandmas and stepmoms and new moms and those who are still praying to become moms, single moms, foster moms. It doesn't matter where they are on their journey. It's who they are in their heart that you allow to speak into your life. So Galatians 1:10 says, "For am I now seeking the approval of man or God? Am I trying to please man? If I were trying to please man, I would not be a servant of Christ." That's one of my favorite scriptures because it always reminds me that I'm not here to please anybody but him. And if I keep focusing on him, and I'm going to treat my friends better, I'm going to love on other moms better, I'm going to not worry about what they think or what they do as much as I am him. And if I'm doing what he says, then everything's going to be okay and everything's going to flow right. Use discernment. Not everybody's going to be cheering you on. Not everybody wants you to succeed. We've probably all been there too as parents. They're just waiting for your kid to mess up. Mine will, don't worry. But you surround yourself by those who do want you to succeed. You get yourself some people who inspire you to be more like him. I'm so blessed by so many of you, and I pray, I wrote that and it doesn't even make sense, I'm sorry. I did have a good prayer, I'm sure. Oh, I know what I was going to say. That I pray that I can be a blessing to you like you have been to me, because I have learned so much from so many people in here. I always think of, and Misty, I'll throw you on the spot here, and I hate to do this on Mother's Day, but I always think of when Misty first started coming to Mom's group, and she said, I don't have a mom here. Her mom passed away. She said, I don't know what to do. I need moms. I need people to tell me, show me, And I always thought, that's what the church is supposed to be. We're supposed to be there for each other like that. We're supposed to be examples. We're supposed to be speaking into each other's lives. We can change the next generation. We just need each other, and to cast our jealousy and envy and our comparing ourselves to people aside to the only one who truly matters. So get yourself some people. And the thing is, they don't have to just be here. It usually happens wherever you are around people a lot of the time. But your people don't have to just be from here. They can be other people throughout the community. You know what? How are you going to influence the world if you're not ever around people who aren't believers, too? Be careful of the influence, but at the same time, surround yourself by people. Be a good friend to others. Encourage your other mom friends. Rejoice with them, and you will be blessed overwhelmingly and abundantly, just like Elizabeth was filled with the Spirit and received gifts and blessings beyond what she could compare, because she was a good friend, and she was truly excited for somebody else. That's what we need to be. We just need to cheer each other on, because we've got enough of the world tearing us down as moms and comparing us on our own. We shouldn't be doing that to each other. We need each other. All right, your turn. The end.
So here's what we want to do, and I talked to my wife about it. For the altar call, we didn't want to do something, that wasn't going to be effective. So the question is, there are moms, there are grandmas, there are women here who feel empty and overlooked. It's common. And I want you to bow your heads and close your eyes, if you will. There are women who feel like they're overwhelmed with life and overwhelmed with family, and and you've been praying for the blessings. You've been praying just like Rachel. You've been looking. You've been asking the Lord, but He hasn't answered you yet. First, I want to say, hold on. Don't let go of that. And maybe even tonight, this morning, you're searching for an Elizabeth to rejoice with you. Maybe you don't have a friend. Maybe you don't. You're not really close knitted in the community with people, and you just have a hard time trying to find somebody that you feel like you can be confident in. I need prayer, and they'll pray with you, or they'll be alongside you in the journey. And I guess what my wife was saying, and she was very clear about it, that this is the place. We have great friendships. One of the things I love about Cornerstone is there's such an abundance of love, and there's so much grace, and there's so much mercy, and there's so much persistence and each other working each other's lives, men and women of this church. And that you don't find very often. But I can tell you that we will walk with you. We'll help you through things. And so if you feel empty and overlooked, like Leah this morning, I just want you to